Colorado will be among the first states to ban cell phone sales for use for children under 13. Now, a lot of people are saying, listen, I don't want my kid to have a smartphone until they reach a certain age. There is one article out there that we read from Nicholas Bowman, who is a media psychologist, who brings up some really interesting, at least topics for discussion about what people typically do as a reaction to new technology when they're talking about what it'll do to their kids. This guy, it's a great read. It says, in the 1790s, the printing of adventure novels raised concerns that children were compulsively reading at the expense of their chores. Before that, Socrates spoke out about the written word, saying that the written word would detract from people's ability to remember things and take away from the effectiveness of the original spoken word. All the way down to like Death Race in the 70s was a murder simulator. And in the 20s, people were afraid that crossword puzzles would contribute to illiteracy, which is weird because you need to be literate in order to spell the words in crossword puzzles. But this he says translates to cell phones where people are just overreacting, and it takes a more collaborative effort between parents and kids rather than just banning, but also to acknowledge the parts of cell phones that are bad versus the parts that are positive and good and act accordingly. What do you guys think? Thoughts, 5 words or less.
This is a hard sell with a C.
Nice.
These complaints are phony.
Cell phone problems are apparent. You know, it's a parent. I think it's a parent thing. So bad, so bad.
Brett, you're so right.
Goofy.
Because okay, so remember when we were growing up? I don't know. The people would. I played Super NES, Game Boy, Game Gear, Genesis like a crazy man, and people thought, oh my gosh, that's gonna rot your brain. Right. Go outside and play. I turned out just fine. I don't think cell phones or every generation has their own electronic device or something of that nature that is a threat for their brains and your learning and your attention span, et cetera, et cetera. I think kids are getting younger with cell phones because kids are a lot smarter. Like my nephew's 6 and knows how to FaceTime, send an email, answer a text message. You know, they know how to do all these things. But at that age, we were also smart in the things that were present for us too. I think it is the parents' responsibility to police and monitor your child's usage of anything, be it if it's television, iPads. Did I spit on you, Grace?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought
he meant to. He meant to.
I'm so excited. I'm spitting on Grace.
Grace is on the other side. Do you think kids should have cell phones under 13?
Well, I didn't really. I was given a Nokia brick phone when I was maybe 15, and that was sort of out of necessity, and I kept it throughout high school. And I had something kind of similar in college. I'm not a big phone person to begin with, so I think that was just me personally. What I do think that you sort of touch on, Jason, is that new technology is always a little bit of a threat, or it's sort of this big unknown when it comes out. And I think that the article does a good example of pointing out things like crossword puzzles or the moving picture shows and all these things that we weren't really sure what the effects on a growing and developing brain would be. And so you sort of think of the worst before the studies are really out there to show that, oh, reading is really good for kids.
Yeah.
Reading is really good. And I do think that there are some physical concerns when it comes to like, if a kid's holding a cell phone too close to their face, it's bad for your eyes. There are some things that you can moderate. Of course, you have to work hand in hand with a parent or with a school and teach moderation and teaching phone etiquette. I think that's way more important than just banning phones because you can't stop the world from progressing. And I think it's way more important to learn things like texting etiquette and phone etiquette.
Yes.
And being safe with how close your brightness is and that sort of thing, than to just ban it altogether. That doesn't stop progress from taking place.
Yeah, like cell phones are a thing. All the problems that parents perceive for their children are things that in the process of parenting, it is a pain in the ass and it's really difficult. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do, but you just kind of have to look at cell phones like you would any other thing, like running around a pool and just kind of monitor how your kids are handling it. And one step to that is identifying the potential specific issues, as Grace says, and then also just because you ban a kid's smartphone doesn't mean that kid won't be on social media and encounter the same problems they would be able to encounter if they had a smartphone. So examine all the pitfalls. That said, my friends one of them's a child psychiatrist and has a kid, and he's not more as a cognitive development thing. He just doesn't want his kid around screens for the first year of her life.
Yeah.
But as those things become unavoidable, this article does a great job of pointing out things like abstinence-only sex education programs that intimidate and scare kids. They don't work.
And make them horny.
Yeah, just if you ban a cell phone, what's that kid gonna want? A cell phone, as opposed to finding a way to say here's how we use it, here's what the positives and negatives can be.
And kids will take their cues from their teachers and from their parents and guardians and those that they look up to as far as priorities go. So if you are prioritizing your screen more than your going outside or your interpersonal relationships, then a kid's gonna take a cue from you and be like, oh, this is how I interact with the world. And then you get, and then you get frustrated. You're like, oh, kids are always on their cell phones or kids are always doing this. But I think that my cousin has 2 younger kids and she has done, I'm biased, I think a really awesome job at just teaching. Oh gosh, I believe like 10, yeah, 10 and 12.
Gotcha. So that's right where they're talking about here.
Right within there. And she had this sort of thing where they didn't have I don't think either of them have cell phones, but they are allowed to be around the iPads in the house and stuff. And on Fridays, they have Rot Your Brain Fridays, which is they're not allowed really much screen time unless they need it for homework during the week. But on Friday, she's like, all right, rot your brains. You guys, you can look forward to this. It's sort of a treat. So it teaches them, okay, screens are not something that I need to depend on, but they're really fun and I can look forward to doing all these cool things on these iPads and all these computers, my parents' cell phones.
It's crazy that the way in which different generations interact with media changes your brain.
Yeah.
They have different brains, different ways of doing it. So for me in elementary school and all the way through high school, everything was in a book on a physical page. So when I thought of where information lived, I'd think through physical pages. I'd be going back and forth. It's not physically here. I have to move this physical thing over there. Even now I've learned to be it's just information out there.
Yeah.
And you just need to find a physical representation of that information just on the phone for a second and then you can move it. But that changes the makeup of your brain and how you log information, not as having been in one specific place and then living on a shelf somewhere, but just kind of being out there. And I think those kinds of disconnects between parents and kids are really intimidating for the parents because they don't even know how to go about learning the things they have to sort through to find the potential pitfalls. So that's a real challenge for parents, but that challenge has, to make you not feel alone, been around forever because technology is always changing.
I think I see parents, I work in electronics and technology field. So I see people come into my store and they have children and the first thing they do to distract their child from not running all over the place is give them an iPad and say, here, just go play a game or go and do this. I think I like what you said about your friend who has Rot Your Brain Friday, because growing up, I had that. My stepdad, who was an attorney, super by the book, scholarly, educational guy, did not believe in any kind of fun via TV, movies. You read books, you got educated the old school way.
Yeah.
He would take, I kid you not, audience, I had every single game console you could imagine, a Dreamcast, Game Boy, Game Gear, Genesis, everything. Me and my twin brothers were addicted, so he saw that at an early age, and so he would take every console and hide them. And I mean, this guy was good. He one time buried them in the ground outside because he ran out of places to hide them in our house. That's how messed up it was. But the point I'm making is that I think parents are now, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for this, but I think parenting has become a little bit lazy. I think that some parents feel that, at least what I'm seeing, that it's just too much work to try to get their kid to detach, unplug, and turn off. So you feel like, screw it. It's a battle I'm not gonna win because and I'm just seeing from what I'm seeing with parents that I come in contact with. Even with my nephew. My nephew, I come home and he's in front of a TV watching Nick Jr. Or
I was in front of a TV for freaking sure a lot. But it sounds like a Bill Burr type stand-up bit where it's and it might be one that I'm just kind of remembering, where it's just so easy for kids, for me, for anyone to find a game to play, a literal game, versus when he was a kid, it's just you have to find something to make a game out of. You have to find something to do with a stick, find a stick and come up with a game for it. And I think that kind of creativity is good to remember as a possibility. It's just so easy and so quick, and I've developed over time to just rely on there being something to do
Sure.
given to me here on my phone. Like there is a game I can play instantly to just pass time and turn me into a zombie really quickly.
And both, I don't think that either of those forms of creativity, I don't think that one is better than the other. So when you were talking about that, I was thinking, yeah, I remember when we got a refrigerator when I was a kid growing up, and my mom gave us the box, and that was, that box had so many lives. It was a house, it was a spaceship, it was all, and we played with this box. I love this box. I miss this box now as I think about it. But I also think that there are some times where you find comfort in just vegging and watching something on your phone. I don't think that does something else to your brain. That's a relaxant to your brain that you also need that can kind of calm you down. But then there's also that real-time physical creativity that we should also encourage and foster. And instead of parents just shutting one out, or instead of being like, I don't understand this, like, no, I don't get it, so no. Let's find a way where everything can exist in the world, because that's the world that we live in. That's the way things are gonna be, whether you like it or not.
And if this is bad now, if kids are already early adopters of technology, if they are already pros at technology and know how to use it at an early age, it's like you said, the world keeps evolving. What's the next phase and what's the next step?
Our implants, wait till we get our
Grace, I was just gonna say that.
You guys haven't gotten those yet?
No, I don't like needles.
I can't wait to just, next time we're on the Pop Trigger Show, just like scrolling through.
Yeah.
Grace, what do you think? What?
But that's the same, but people have that all the time. Like we all know it's a physical handheld thing, but we all know this feeling of someone just listening, sort of.
Oh, I
and then
know
you
it.
finish your sentence and then it's like a 1 second pause before they're like, yeah, I agree.
I think there's some, my mom let me have it over the weekend. She was like, I think it's rude that you're always on your phone. I don't get it. Like, who's talking to you? Like, who are you talking to? I'm like, Mom, I'm just surfing, I'm looking at the news. And she's like, I don't get it, let's just talk. I think there's some comfort in that. I'm so impressed by people who are able to detach and unplug, because I know for myself it's really hard. And because we work in the fields we work in, we always have to be up on everything.
I need the time off, because after sifting through information for so long, I don't remember as much as I should, and B, just need a time to recharge that like focus battery of like, I've been jamming through a bunch of articles and then just coming up and be like, I need to not do that for a few hours so I can go back to it and be more effective.